County and attacked a police convoy, killing one police officer and injuring several others. Haji says the Kenyan security forces need to think like the militia and study their strategy that keeps changing over time if they are to defeat the ragtag militia that has launched several attacks on Kenyan soil. This is what he had to say.
It is not proper for us to have generation of uneducated youth. And therefore, everything must be done to make sure that the children get their education. And we should not give a room to Al-Shabaab to feel that they are winning. Human intelligence is superior to any kind of technology. And you can get human intelligence when you have people who understand the language of the people, who can go to places that are usually not very common place to go. And this can only be done by local people who understand the language, who know the culture, who can interact people and pick their names, and even get unintended conversation, and even engage people into giving information without any kind of inhibition. You cannot win this kind of a war by either coercion, threat, or mistreatment of the people from whom you want to get information. When people are mishandled, the only information you get is the information that you want to get from them. It may be false, it may not be true.
Now, still on matters in security, the revelation by the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Jacob Kaimenyi, that 95 schools have been closed in northeastern Kenya because of terror attacks may have just underscored the effects of terror on the education. Several children from the region now face a bleak educational future as the government struggles to provide security to its citizens in the region. Several leaders from northeastern Kenya are currently meeting to strategize on how to ensure there's security not just for school-going children, but for the entire population along the Kenya-Somali border. Hamza Yusuf is attending that meeting and now joins us on phone. Hamza, what is the agenda of that meeting?
Well, thank you, Magdalene. I'm now in Central Freeman where the fundraising of the school is going on now. This has brought various leaders from the county to discuss about the security matters. Now, basically, what is going on here is that some of the leaders in this region, led by Garissa Governor Nabi German, a senator of Garissa Yusuf Haji, and member of Kalambala, member of Parliament of Kalambala, Abdikadir Aden, are expected to give their thoughts, concerning the ongoing crisis of lack of teachers and also lack of education currently in northeastern. It's only 2 days where the Education Minister Jacob Kaimenyi ordered the closure of 82 primary schools and 12 secondary schools. This has raised a concern among the leaders and also the residents of northeastern province. Indeed, it is an issue which has been translated into different directions, and most of the residents whom we spoke to earlier, they told us that it's one way of discriminating the northeastern people, because they say it is the responsibility of the government to secure the institutions, but not shutting down instead. So these are some of the reasons why the leaders are meeting today after several meetings for the last 2 days.
Just before I let you go, Hamza, because the reception in that area is not quite clear, this is not the first time that the leaders are having such a meeting. Do you think that maybe the outcome of this meeting might be different from the other meetings that they've had in the past?
Well, they're saying it will be different because this is something that have not been witnessed before. Institutions closed because of insecurity. They're saying it is an issue which has not been witnessed before. So they're saying this is the time that northeastern leaders need to be united and discuss about such issues where insecurity has even led to affect the educational system. So they're saying it will be different. They have the confidence that they will make a difference in this.
Thank you very much. Hamza Yusuf there, and he will be telling us about that meeting in our subsequent bulletins. But moving on now, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission Chair Francis Ole Kaparo has put leaders from pastoral communities and professionals on the spot over the rising cases of clashes that have led to senseless killings among the communities. Kaparo is meeting the leaders just a day after 5 people were killed and several injured in the latest clash in Isiolo. He urged the leaders to look for ways of ending the perennial clashes. He was speaking here in Nairobi during a breakfast meeting with some of the leaders.
What is it? These wars, these conflicts, they've been everlasting, sort of. We sit here, if you look at this table, if you look at almost each and every table here, we are sitting mixed. We are not saying in the boundary yangu usisongeshe mkono hapa. Those boundaries are imaginary. And regardless of where they are moved, those communities will still be neighbors for life.
We are also very disappointed with the national government, the people who are tasked to take charge of the security in this country. I think you've just heard, all of us, including myself, when I get to Rumuruti is when I say, nimefika Kenya.
But you are also the ones, every time the government says we are going to have an operation to remove illegal arms, you are the first people to complain. So each one of you is hoping that the guns must be taken from the next tribe, not from yours, so that they are helpless and you are armed and you kill them. Why this double speak? Why this double speak? If you really value the lives of your people, then you must support every step, every action that will be taken by the government or other well-wishers that will ensure that instruments of destruction are removed.
Now, the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy remains adamant that the two-thirds gender rule must be met. The coalition is lobbying for the implementation of the two-thirds rule in Parliament ahead of the August 2015 deadline and says any attempts by the Jubilee government to derail the constitution implementation process will not be taken lightly. Timothy Otieno reports.
The metrics on how the two-thirds gender rule will be implemented ahead of the August deadline remains a mystery. This even as the Quad leadership insists that the government is not doing enough to salvage the situation. Speaking after a closed-door meeting Thursday morning, the Quad principals say the Jubilee government is bound by the Constitution to ensure the rule is met.
We would like to appeal to our colleagues in the Jubilee to reason with us so that we can find a way to comply with the provisions of the Constitution.
Even though the two-thirds rule appears to have been met at the county and executive levels, Kenya's parliament constitutes only 19% of women both nominated and elected, a figure which is still below par.
I'm therefore asking the president, who has actually signed to the UN He for She campaign, and who swore to defend the Constitution, to defend the clauses in our Constitution, and remind Parliament and the Executive, you cannot choose which parts of the Constitution to adhere to and which to reject.
These leaders of Jubilee, let them roast in their own chosen path of neglecting, as I said, not living the spirit of the Constitution. Time is truly catching up with them.
The coalition that is lobbying for the full implementation of Article 81B of the Constitution says the recent bill by Justice and Legal Affairs Committee Chairman Samuel Chepkwonga will not succeed. The bill was seeking to amend the article that says that not more than two-thirds of the members of elective public bodies can be of the same gender.
Even the adventure they have taken through the now much publicized Chepkwonga bill will get nowhere because no side in both houses can marshal enough numbers
to pass a constitutional bill.
CORD says it will have a retreat to discuss the matter further, with appropriate measures to be put in place to ensure the women of Kenya get what they say is duly theirs by the Constitution. Timothy Otieno, KTN.
Now, a medical condition is threatening the future of a 14-year-old girl, class 7 pupil from Wundanyi in Taita Taveta County. The girl, who does not understand what is wrong with her, has been urinating on herself for years, and this has made learning difficult for her, with her schoolmates taunting her over her condition. Her poverty-stricken grandmother and father say there's very little they can do to help the girl, who has been learning in shame.
She stands cross-legged amid the noise from her fellow students. It's a normal day for her in school, but there's nothing normal about what has become her daily nightmare. The reality of what her life has become comes to life when she walks away. A big round patch on her back begins to tell the story of the 14-year-old. Too scared to even play with her schoolmates, she sits quietly alone and away from her peers, her shame slowly consuming the bubbly life that a girl her age would normally have. According to Nancy Wahungu, who is the deputy head teacher at Wiruga Primary School, the health complications of the young girl have made it difficult for her to integrate with her peers.
Shida yake kubwa ni mikojo kutoka bila yeye kuwa anasikia. Na mara nyingine hata haja kubwa hutoka, na hapo mbeleni alikuwa na shida nyingi sana, kwa sababu watoto walikuwa wanamkimbia kwa sababu ya ile harufu mbaya, wanamuogopa, wanamcheka. Sasa ikabidi sisi kama walimu tufanye nini? Tuzungumze na watoto, tuwaelezee kwamba hii ni shida imempata, tukawabembeleza, tukawakansel mpaka wakazoea kuishi na yeye. Kwa sasa yuko class 6, anaendelea vizuri, lakini kiasi umri unazidi, ile mikojo inatoa harufu mbaya sana. So hata kwetu sisi walimu, kama mimi namfundisha CRE, ukiingia tu pale darasani kama ukiwa mgeni, inabidi uanze kuangalia ni nini kinachonuka kwa lile darasa. Sasa inabidi tu watu tunakaa naye kwa kuvumilia pale darasani, kwa sababu ya harufu ya mikojo na harufu ya haja kubwa. Mara nyingine sisi kama walimu tumekuwa tukitatizika mpaka tunamchangia ili tuweze kununua pampers, lakini kwa sababu ni msichana mkubwa, akiendelea ikifika saa 4:30 hivi pampers ishaloa mikojo, yani inabidi tu anakaa kwa shida. So hapo kwa darasa lake anaketi, hawezi keti karibu na wavulana, wasichana pia wanakaa mbali naye. Yani yako katika hali ambayo ni ya kusikitisha. Alafu pia performance yake, hawezi kuwa free kujibu maswali darasani, kwa sababu ile akili yake anakuwa intimidated. She cannot be free at a break time, haendi.
It is then that she gets the courage to speak up about a condition that even she does not understand.
Darasani magonjwa yanatoka, alafu ninaambiwa na watoto wetu tunajikojolea.
Her teachers have had to raise funds to buy her pampers, if only to make the learning environment bearable for her classmates. They say expecting her to go back home a few times to change is a tall order. After a while, she limps and makes her way to her home, the one place that is a small heaven. Her grandmother is the only one who understands her pain.
Mimi nakaa naye, lakini nasema Mungu yuko tu, atamsaidia. Na tukaanza, kwa maana alipopona kabisa anaenda shule, sasa ni pampa. Kamwambia sasa tutafanya nini? Tutazunguka na pampa. Babake ananunua, anaenda nazo mpaka wa leo. Si huyu anakuwa moto nini, pampa zikiisha, mimi ninaanza kivyangu, namfunga, anaenda shule. Sitaki akae, kwa maana ni mtu yuko na akili zake. Namwambia usiwe na wasiwasi, Mungu yuko. Haya, tutakusaidia tu mpaka siku ya mwisho. Mungu vile atatenda, Mungu atatenda kazi mpaka Mungu atakusaidia, usiwe na shida. Ile tatizo ndio linamsumbua. hili la kukojoa ndio linamsumbua zaidi, kwa maana anapenda masomo. Sasa saa ingine wale watoto shuleni wakiona mkojo imekutoka kwa nini, sasa anamwambia wewe unatoa mkojo. Sasa anasema mimi sikupenda kwangu, haya ni ya Mungu.
Her father understands a little bit of what his daughter is suffering from. The finances have run out, and now her father and grandmother hope and pray that they will get financial help to take their daughter to hospital and end the lifelong shame she's had to live with.
Well, that's just sad. Moving on to matters beyond our borders, Nigeria's President-elect Muhammadu Buhari is expected to be sworn in as Nigeria's 5th president this Friday, marking the beginning of his first term as the president. Following the March general election, several world leaders are expected to attend the swearing-in ceremony.
I'm in Abuja, and this is Eagle Square, the venue where President-elect Muhammadu Buhari will be sworn in as the 15th president of Nigeria. This is the first time an incumbent will be handing over power to an opposition leader, and out there expectations are very high. Buhari will be taking over power when there is energy crisis in Nigeria. Fuel crisis is biting so hard that Nigerians expect that he'll help them scale through the challenges the soonest possible. This is what we heard from people in the streets.
First 100 days of Buhari, I actually want Buhari to tackle the issue of corruption, electricity, which is power generation, and then the job opportunity.
We don't have way to do our job, and the hungry are killers. We don't know what is going on for this country. So that made the leader, where the leader, we don't know what they are doing.
I've not been able to do anything as a result of this because I can't press physically. I can't use my iron, in the night, there's no light to work.
What if Buhari lets you down, maybe in 100 days?
He will not let us down. Our prayers will not allow. Don't even go back. You are entirely playing the kosher style. Dribbling backward. Don't go backward. You understand?
We will bring you more on the transition Thursday and Friday. From Abuja, I'm Alex Chamwada for KTN.
Well, now, time for a short break, but when we come back, Michael Karanja will be in studio with the marketing manager of OLX to talk about advertising spend.
And welcome back to KTN Newsdesk. I'm Michael Karanja. Advertising spend is what we're going to be talking about this afternoon, just to help us understand what goes through the minds of corporates when they are spending that colossal amounts of money on advertising and marketing. I'm joined by Priscilla Muhio, marketing manager OLX. Priscilla,
yes.
85.8 billion shillings was spent in 2014 in advertising.
Yes.
Where is that money going to, and why are people spending that much money in advertising?
Well, I think that it's important to advertise, of course, because you want to increase your revenues, you want to increase the sales. So how would people know about your product? So marketing is very, very important. I can give an example of OLX. The online classified concept is very new in Kenya, as we all know that e-commerce is very nascent in the market. So we had to start by educating consumers on how to use the online classified site. Basically, people were not familiar with selling anything online. So we had to start from educating
Consumer
people.
Education.
Yes, educating people on how to sell stuff online and then showcasing OLX as the best proposition. Yeah.
Just looking at your case, you spend about 1.31 billion shillings on advertising, yet you offer a free service.
Yes.
So when I look at it, where's the money for OLX coming in through?
Yes, that's a very common question. Every time I meet someone who knows, someone who knows I work at OLX, the first thing they ask me is that how does OLX make money? Currently, we don't make money, and I'll give you an example, or rather, I'll explain why. OLX is owned by a company called Naspers. Naspers is the 5th largest media concern in the world.
Yeah.
They're the same guys who own DSTV. They own 86% of OLX. So they're the guys behind the fundings that we have. The guys who pay my salary, the guys who enable us to do the marketing we do.
Yeah.
And for most internet businesses, it's very important to get users on board fast prior to start charging them. Yeah, so we have to make sure that we have a huge network of buyers and sellers prior to us asking people to pay us for the service.
But just looking at that, just advertising growth in the market, just from about 79 billion in 2013 to 85 in 2014. Just is it looking like companies actually increasing their marketing spend and advertising spend to more or less lure new customers into businesses?
Well, I think the increase is because of media rates inflation. I can tell you that internally we've had to negotiate with KTN in terms of advertising rate cuts. So I attribute that mostly to media rate inflation.
And if a company, let's say, is spending even as much as 5 billion shillings on advertising, how do you measure the return or the effectiveness of what you're actually putting out there, and does it to make it a justifiable spend that next year you want to spend about even 6 billion shillings?
Yes, we are fortunately for us, e-commerce is very easy to track, like in terms of results, unlike at FMCG where you have to wait for a while to see the sales grow. For us, every time we launch a TV campaign, a radio campaign, we see the result the next day. We've been around for 2 years in terms of marketing, and we are currently doing 100,000 people coming to the site every single day. So that we attribute that, of course, to the aggressive marketing that we've been doing. Our plans is to continue doing such marketing. It's because we need to continue growing our lister base, what we call lister base or our user base. So marketing is very important, in my opinion, very, very important. We have to make sure we get consumers understanding the brands the brand offering that the different corporates are offering.
And just looking at what's happening in the market, the antics have even grown from strange to weird, I might call it. We see nowadays, people in the streets on stilts, walking around trying to advertise or just capture people on rollerblades in terms of pushing products across. How crazy is it going to get when it comes to actually marketing and advertising in this country?
Well, I think when people do such things, it's just to try and be different. Because there's a lot of competition. Luckily for us in the e-commerce space, we have a few players. So OLX, we have to continue maintaining our dominance. So we have to also innovate in terms of the marketing channels we come up with. We are very open to testing new channels. Every day we try new channels, and what we've learned over the time is that different channels have different roles. For TV has the role of brand awareness. Radio is a very good platform for dialogue with the consumer, for example. So we appreciate that each channel has its different role, and we have to continuously innovate in terms of coming up with new ways of marketing. Otherwise, it will not make sense to continue doing the same thing and expect the same different results.
Just looking at the channels, also we're looking at TV, radio, newspapers. Nowadays we also have big spends also on social media and other different platforms. When you look at all this, perhaps when you're spreading the money across, how do you gauge the effectiveness of each of those platforms?
Of these platforms, I'll talk about online spend. The reason why it's increasing, this is because we are seeing more and more people getting connected on the online platforms. As you know from CAK, we have 21 million people who have access to the internet, and are frequent users of the internet. So that means people are online. So if you want to talk to consumers, you have to be online in the online space as well. What we believe is that at OLX, what we believe is that these channels work together. They don't work in isolation. You can't just do TV only. You can't just do radio only. You have to find the right mix. So we can continuously try to engineer our combination to find the right mix. And every time we do that and we find different results, so we try and optimize as we go along. Like I said before, it's very easy for us to track results. So we are able to optimize even on a weekly basis because change how we do it.
All right, thank you very much. As been Priscilla Mohio, marketing manager at OLX, just telling us about how crazy it's going to get on the advertising front and what to expect going forward and using multiple platforms to actually get the message across. Najma Ismail, what's happening at FIFA?
Well, the corruption of international soccer is rife. A 47-count indictment was unsealed early in federal court in Brooklyn, New York, charging 14 defendants with racketeering, wire fraud and money laundering conspiracies, among other offenses. Now, in connection with the defendants' participation in 24-year scheme to enrich them through the corruption of international soccer. This comes as FIFA faces growing pressure to postpone its presidential election, which is scheduled for Friday.
European Football Association UEFA do not want Friday's FIFA presidential election to go ahead after bribery and racketeering charges were leveled against senior FIFA officials. US law enforcement officials shook up and vowed to clean up the world of soccer governing body, with a 47-count indictment charging top FIFA officials from Latin America and the Caribbean and several South Florida-based executives with enriching themselves by participating in a $150 million bribery scheme during the past 2 decades.
14 defendants charged in the indictment we are unsealing today include high-ranking officials of FIFA, the international organization responsible for regulating and promoting soccer, leaders of regional and other governing bodies under the FIFA umbrella, and sports marketing executives who, according to the indictment, paid millions of dollars in bribes and kickbacks to obtain lucrative media and marketing rights to international soccer tournaments.
This investigation has been long and painstaking, and it is not over, and the work will continue until all of the corruption is uncovered and a message is sent around the world that this conduct will not be tolerated.
The FBI further raided the headquarters of the football body CONCACAF, the Confederation of North, Central American and Caribbean Association Football in Miami Beach. Meanwhile, former Vice President Jack Warner spent the night in jail in Trinidad after handing himself to the police. Prosecutors announced racketeering conspiracy and other charges against 14 defendants, including the 9 current and former FIFA officials.
The 47-count indictment against these individuals includes charges of racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering conspiracies spanning 2 decades.
This really is the World Cup of fraud, and today we are issuing FIFA a red card.
The FBI investigation has taken 7 years to come to fruition, but there is no warrant for safe blatter. Maybe it is to come. The United States Department of Justice is alleging corruption that is rampant, systematic and deep-rooted and has taken place on Blatter's watch, but he still clings to power and wants a re-election vote.
Well, that's it on Newsdesk this afternoon. My name is Najma Ismail.